Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday, May the 20th. This will be our chart lesson for today. This is going to be, it's actually 4:30 now. I'm just now getting a chance to do this. I've had the chart ready to go and, um, trying to get to it all day. It's just been a crazy day. It started out crazy. I had to leave during part of the trading today to go. My daughter had something going on at school today that I had to go to, and then and it's just been crazy around here all day since I got back. But anyway, I'm going to go through the trades real quick. There weren't as many today, but they're all really good, and just about every trade today had runners. That was what was really exciting to me. You only needed a couple of trades if you were trading runners to really make some money today, because every single one of them, were good for a couple of points at least on the runners. And you don't get many days like that. And really, overall, I would call this a trading range day. We spent most of Friday and then the overnight in this area right here. We had a failed break out the low, then out the top, and then we went higher and broke out, and then we got back inside the same range this afternoon. So, but it's pretty straightforward. You had a channel going up. It might have, oops, it always happens to me there. The channel might have been there, but we never could get back up there to it. I'm thinking this is probably it right there, or where I had it before, right across there, because that really gets the touches both times. We really had a break here. I wasn't sure if we had a break because I wasn't sure if it was down here, but I'm thinking enough people saw this as a break that, if you use the closes, it fits really well. We had the break, a couple of legs up to a new high, and then we sold off and we got back in the range. And so that's what I saw overall. Easy range going up, easy range coming down. You got a break right here, and then we went to a new low, and then we corrected, and but we couldn't get back above that same resistance around 1666 or so. And so that's what I saw. But let's talk about the trades. Uh, I got an email earlier. I think some people saw this as maybe a trend coming in. And if you look at this this is why I don't like using data from previous days. If you use that, yeah, it does look like a range there, but I would rather use today's stuff. And so that's going to put it right down through here. And according to that, we got a break and a new low, but I saw it more as a trading range. It was really tight to begin with. We failed out the bottom, then we went out the top and we failed above that. I never really saw a good short there. That is really bullish too. And once you usually get people trapped on one side, um, it's usually going to go the other way. It might have been a little difficult. I originally drew my line right here and drug it down. That's how I got it. Even though I adjusted it later, it still fit. And so when we got that bounce right there, even if you had it down here, you still got a bounce. So it didn't matter how you drug it down, you still got that bounce right there. And you still get the same thing even if you put it down here towards the lows. You still got a break right there, so I still see the same thing. The angles is what's most important. Where you have it is not quite as important, but you got to get the angles right. It needs to tend to fit, and you can see how the prices tend to fit that pretty well. And even if you drug it up to here, it still are here. It still kind of fits. So I'm thinking this was probably I'm thinking this is probably it right here. And looks like a good fit to me. We had the break. We made a new high, and then we sold off. So, but anyway, nice trade down here on the failed break lower. This is, no matter how you see this, you got to see that support across there that was back from Friday. We failed, and then you got a nice little reversal bar here. If you didn't enter there, you really could have entered here. It's getting more dangerous here. Actually, that's what happens to most inexperienced traders. They want to get more confirmation, but by the time you get more confirmation, it's too late, and you enter at the wrong time. So you gotta learn to enter at the right places. And this was the first break. Then you get that reversal bar. There was a little bit of overlap there, and you can see it went lower and turned up, closed on its high. I like that setup right there. You might have used a limit order at the top. If you tried to get any deeper than that, you wouldn't have got it. But this was the first trade, and guess what? Your runners were safe right out of the gate, and you could have ridden this thing all the way to the top. Again, you could have entered here. I just don't like it there. I think it's too late in the game because you could touch the EMA or this breakout point and turn straight back down again. You just never know. So the setup is here, one tick above it, or a limit order somewhere below that. And then your next trade is a two-legged pullback to where else? The trend line. And you got a little trap down here on top of that. Notice those matching lows. We broke below, we turned. It didn't quite close on its high. So on this trade, you probably would have wanted to use a limit order, drop it at the top, or maybe a tick back into it. But if you got too aggressive, guess what? You missed it. But when you see a big move like that, that would be my thought. And you might have even thought about going short up here, but notice we never got a really good trigger, and so I didn't like it. And then by the time you got your second entry short, it's too late again. It would have worked. So if you saw that and you took it, any of those, if you had a better setup on your chart, then great. You may have, and if you did, it was okay to take this short here. But look at my chart. That's just all overlap and some dojis in there, and I didn't like it. So I think it was too risky after a strong move like that and a failed breakout the low, especially the way this thing's been rallying lately. You don't want to get short in a market that just keeps going higher and higher and higher. At some point it's going to turn over, but the time to be looking for a turnover is not after you just made a new high for the day. After a big bullish move and a failed break lower, that's not the time to be looking to take a risk on going short. It's just not a good time. So then again, your two-legged pullback, the little trap, and then guess what? We got hung up in this. Somebody sent me something and said something about going long there on that second entry. But notice how we didn't go much further here, and then you got a double top, and that's too dangerous coming off the upper side, possible upper side of the channel. A failed break higher with a double top. There's no good reversal bar, and so if you had a good setup right there and you got stuck in this trade, when it ended up doing all this, I would have exited and just waited. You needed to be waiting for it to come over to the trend line anyway. No matter where you had it, we weren't, this line, we weren't to the trend line yet. We didn't get there till here. And so there is a second entry long. It is like a little two-legged pullback, but look at all the overlap. It looks more like a little trading range, which is what it is. It's more congestion than it really is a two-legged correction. But, the way this market's been going, I could see some people getting trapped here. I didn't like it, but I could see some people getting trapped here. So, but anyway, the first chance you got to enter was this little bitty doji. I really thought we were going to get a trap, but we never could get it, but it bounced off that. So it was worth taking here because then you got chance to get out, but you didn't even need it. It just went higher. And then you got a failed second entry short here. Notice this, you got, notice all these lows here. So you're counting zero off this low. First entry, pullback, second entry, and it failed. And look at that reversal bar. I really thought this thing was going to rocket on up. It didn't, but guess what? It did keep going up. It struggled, but it kept going up. So there was a great entry right there, in my opinion. I was tempted to, I really thought a breakout pullback long was going to set up, but notice it broke lower first, but it never could break higher. And by the time it did, you had three overlapping bars and dojis right there. And I actually had this right here originally. But I ended up moving it back down to here when we make the double bottom because that's the breakout pullback long. So we'll just erase that one. I forgot to erase it. But so a nice long there, and it's a possibility we had a break here. I had mine like that, and I still like it right there. Gives you your break right here, but then the run to the new high. And then we start selling off. There's no setup here, at least not on my chart. Hopefully you can see that. There's no reason to be thinking going long there. You might have considered going long here, but you know, it's not really a good setup. And then there's the double bottom on the breakout pullback. I could really see people thinking long right here, because if I would have been sitting here right then, I would have been thinking long. And but notice there was never a break. This was your signal bar, and it never broke. You might have, if it broke lower and went higher and then broke higher first, which I'm pretty sure it did looking at that bar, you might have gotten in right there. But if you got trapped right there looking for another new high, um, you know, when it turned down right here, that's a failed second entry long that turned into a second entry short right at the possible trend line. If you drew it off those first couple of swings there and just pulled it up and it kind of comes right off those first couple of, and touches that one, that was a good sign that, hey, I read this wrong. Uh, I know I got at least one email from somebody that said they got trapped right here, but unless it broke lower first and went higher, you know, I don't think there's no setup on my chart that this would have been your signal bar, and it never broke above it. But if there was a trap right there, I might have gotten trapped myself, but I would have exited when we came back down right there for sure. But you had to be leery of waiting on a good setup simply because there's a possibility you've already got a trend line break and a new high. And what does that lead to? A correction or maybe even a reversal. So it turned out to be a long trap and a second entry short right off the trend line. And look at that move. Runners would have been safe all the way down. And every one of these trades up through here were good for at least a couple of points on a runner. Every one. The earlier you get in, the better. And that's what I'm always telling people. Every trend eventually has a trend line break. So there's always going to be some failures. And so you got to be prepared to that. And the longer you wait to get in, the more likely. I mean, it's like I'm saying, it's the earlier you take the trade is usually the safest, where most people envision it to be the other way around. You know, you want more confirmation, but then by the time you finally make up your mind, it's too late. So you got to change that mindset of buying low and selling high. And that's what you want to do. You want to buy low and sell high, or sell low and buy, or sell. Let me say that again, or buy low and sell high. There you go. I got my tongue tied there a little bit. I had to think about that one. But yeah, you want to buy low and sell high, and you want to sell high and buy low. That's the only way you can make money. But the common sense is always telling you to wait for more confirmation, and you see this move and it gets up here and then you decide to buy, and guess what? It's too late. And then it comes over here and you finally start thinking sell, and then guess what? It's too late and it's time to go higher. So don't get caught in that trap. But then again, we're moving down. This is a little two-legged pullback to the trend line once again. First move up, little pullback, second leg up, turns right off the trend line. You probably would have used a limit order here. I used a limit order, dropped it in, one tick back into this bar. It got filled real easily, and then boom, off to the races. And it didn't check up real quick. It moved fast. And I came back and got the runners here, but you should have been expecting that, hey, it may bounce off this trend channel, so this is where you're looking to exit down here, and you don't let it come back and get your runners. You go ahead and take a couple of points on them, and then you get a second entry short right here, first break of the trend line. So we're still looking for a new low, and guess where it bounces? Right down here, pretty much the same place it had been bouncing all morning before we had the failed break lower. You can see that right there. And there, you might have even thought about going long here if you were really aggressive. I don't think it was a good idea. But it is a nice reversal bar down here at a previous low. So you might have thought about going long there, but I was done by that time. So, but that was really it for today. And like I said, I'm going to keep it kind of short. It's pretty standard stuff. We continue to get really good movement. Today it just happened to be in both directions instead of all up or all down. And in the big picture, I think it's another trading range day. And if you go from the bottom to the highs here, let's just measure. Let's measure this. There's your first little range, and then you would have been looking for your target up here, and you see we didn't quite make that, but that's close enough, and that's what happens, especially if you're going to see a reversal. Um, and really you might have called this the highs. Let's see how that measures out. Probably going to be a lot closer. And that's it to the tick. You can see that right there. So that's probably your original range area right there. And you can look for a target there. Another thing I was looking at this morning was I was looking from here, and this is your kind of a correction here, and to there, and that kind of gave you the original one I had, and we didn't quite make it there either. So, but different ways to find these targets, and sometimes they'll be right on, and sometimes they won't. But it gives you something to shoot for the most part, and it'll be amazing how many times they'll be to the tick or within 1 or 2 ticks on either side of the target. So, but again, pretty standard day. I think the biggest problem people have is in the mornings, at least from some of the traders that have been sending me some stuff. You know, I always see people trying to get their trend lines from the previous days. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's just not as reliable. I mean, I can show you if you try to draw a channel there, we broke above it and we never even came back and thought about testing. Of course, we did get an overshoot down here, and that happens sometimes on an overshoot. But if you drew it the way I see it here, you know, this is what I saw. There's your highs, and if you drew it down through there where it was fitting the best from the overnight, we did get a little break and then a new low, so it still worked out. But honestly, I see this more as, I mean, look at all the overlapping bars and dojis. We're not, you know, the EMA is still pointing down, but, you know, and that would have probably kept you to the thinking to the short side on maybe a failed break lower, because it is making a lower high each time. That's usually a good sign that you're going to break out and go a little bit, but guess what? It failed instantly. And that's how they trap people, and that's how they get you on the wrong side, and then, you know, they take it up the rest of the day for the most part. I'm surprised this thing came back, but it did. But anyway, that was it for today. I hope you had a good trading day. I'm going to wrap it up, and like I said, it's been a hectic day around here. Maybe tomorrow we can get into some other stuff. But that's it for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.